Hey everyone, welcome back to Apollo Art Analysis. In today's episode, we're going to be studying a piece by the established 3D artist known as Mostafa Khaled. And in today's episode, we are going to be looking at the symbolism of crystals. We're also to discuss the concept of exploration and ultimate discovery. So let's just jump right into it. So whenever you first see this work, we appear to have stumbled upon quite the rare sight. Your first impression may be one of awe or even wonder as we just, wonder what exactly is happening here. Of course, the placement of our subject and center draws our eye within the work. This is further reinforced by that dark background, right? We appear to be in a cave of some kind or another. That creates a very dark atmosphere that allows this shining and brilliant crystal light to really pop out to the most intense degree possible. Of course, this focuses our attention on the crystal set and center, and our attention is quite priceless, right? Whatever you use your attention to cast upon that is extremely important, and it's always going to dictate what happens and how you feel. Within this work, we do see this rarity of color, right? Most of the work is this bluish green, but within the center we have that orangish gold, if you will, or even this reddish orange. That, of course, is quite a rare color, so that draws our eye within the work. Not only is the impact of light drawing our eye to the crystal, but as well as rarity of color and even texture as well. For example, the texture of this work, it is quite, jagged in a way, but it's also smooth as well. It's quite strange. Of course, the nature of crystals as well. There is a bit of haze in the atmosphere, the rougher rocks, all of which immerse us so well within the work at hand. And I gotta ask you guys, how do y'all feel when you view this work, or what comes to mind when you're first looking at this piece? Of course, our subject is that of a crystal or a gemstone of some kind or another. And crystals have been a fascination for many millennia now, for even farther back, right? You look at a crystal, right? Whenever you hold a crystal up to the light, it's going to intensify light. Although this feels most reminiscent of a crystal, the title of this work is emerald. And so, for example, I brought in some emeralds that I could find online. This is entitled as a Colombian emerald, so take with that as you wish. When you typically think of an emerald, you're going to think of the color green, right? But you look at a piece like this, of course it is entitled as emerald, but there is almost no green when we're looking at the actual structure and form of that crystal or gemstone. But I found this work, and the reason I want to bring this in is because of that orange tone, right? I was looking at this and I was a bit cynical. I was like, emerald, I don't see any green or anything like that. I look at something like this, almost reminiscent of oxidation, if you will. Of course, just wanted to bring that in to compare to the original work today. This doesn't, remind me personally of an emerald, but I did find that picture with a little bit of orange as well. Just want to bring that in real quick to give some context to the title of the work at hand. And for even longer than crystals, we have treated light and even the color gold as sacred. So any object that intensifies light, or we call a catalyst of light, can truly be divine as a result as well. For example, in Aldous Huxley's essay entitled Heaven and Hell, he really explores this, gems of fire and why they kind of fascinate the human imagination throughout time. I think that's absolutely fascinating. Within the work at hand, we do see a brilliant example of that. It feels absolutely sacred. It feels magical. It feels divine in so many different ways. But at the end of the day, this is a discovery, and I want y'all to look at the setting where we are, right? This is a cave of some kind or another. At the very least, it is a very dark and very secluded atmosphere. To be able to see something like this, you would have to extend yourself, even perhaps in the realm of danger. That can be even a metaphor for so many different things, right? The most challenging aspects of light can be the most rewarding as well. And so when you're in a challenging part of your life, just remember that if you keep moving, you can move onto the other side and really find that treasure, right? That can be applied in so many different ways, from the literal, of course, going into a mine, going into a very dark and secluded cave to find something like this, or of course the metaphorical, like we just discussed, those challenging times in life. Because once the tumultuous is endured, it eventually becomes the pathway to the treasure. I think that's just so important to recognize. And I have an additional piece from the original artist Mostafa Khaled. This really reminds me of this kind of theme of discovery that we're discussing, right? Put that about right there. Of course, we do have in the work on the right a lone subject. This is from the exact same original artist that created the work today. And I was torn between these two works. Which one do I study? Do I study the larger scale one, or do I study the much more kind of concentrated one? I'm really glad I made this choice. I really do like this piece, but of course I got to bring this in because it also caught my eye. It is quite relevant to the original work at hand. Of course, in both instances, it is incredibly realistic, right? Due to the medium of the digital render in both works. In both instances, we also do have the title as Emerald. And in both works, we do have a very similar kind of orange-colored crystal or gemstone within both instances. The work on the right, I think, is an amazing example of that discovery, right? You had that lone subject going out into the great unknown, of course, extending even to the realm of danger to be able to find that tumultuous treasure and everything in between. But just wanted to bring that in real quick to compare it to the original work today. Once again, I almost studied the work on the right, but I eventually decided to study the work before us today. And once again, the work before us is quite realistic, right? We talked about it in the context of texture. That, of course, is due to the medium known as the digital render. The original artist, I believe, used Blender to create the work at hand. Blender, of course, is an incredibly popular program, perhaps the most widely known 3D art program and even animation program as well. If you want to get involved in the world of 3D art, check out Blender. It's an amazing place to really begin. And it is open source as well, so even better there. But yeah, that's really all I have for today. Really hope you'll enjoy. We talked about so many different things. We talked about the nature and symbolism of crystals. We talked about the challenging times in life that are required to really reach that treasure. We talked about the impact of texture, the impact of color, the impact of light. So many different things we discussed today. I really hope you'll enjoy it. And at the end of the day, always remember that crystals, gemstones, and even some type of glass forms are catalysts of light. So they intensify light and they're often treated as divine. We even use this in jewelry as well, right? There's so many things that you can really draw from that. And of course, remember. But like I said, I really hope you'll enjoy today. If y'all enjoyed, go check out the original artist, Mostafa Khaled, doing some amazing stuff in the world of the digital render. Really a talented artist. Surely has gained a lot of followers over the past few years. But once again, like I said, really hope you'll enjoy it. If y'all did, go check out the original artist, Mostafa Khaled. My name's Apollo. This was Apollo Art Analysis, and I'll see y'all on the next episode. We hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you'd like to support our work directly, please check out our Apollo community tokens. Apollo Art Exchange is an ecosystem of art appreciation which elevates artists each and every day. Thanks for listening.